Now, how do I discuss these metaphors? Well, this is the tough bit because they are always up for interpretation. Now, the first thing is always to ask yourself why you think that metaphor is used. In other words, if I was to start describing myself as a tree, why would I do that? Now, this is a very good question to start with. Why would I do that? Because that sounds pretty crazy, and it is. But really, you're looking at it in terms of the significance of that thing. So I may say that I'm like a tree because I'm proud and tall, or something along those lines. Now, again, that's just basically what a metaphor is doing, is it's allowing you to associate another quality to something else. And certainly by saying you think of it being like that, you're able to really develop what value that metaphor has. You need to also consider multiple answers. So when I say that I'm like a tree because I'm proud and tall, might be because I'm like a tree because my bark is very thick, or something like that. And you can consider multiple answers like that as well. Then, finally, this is the most important bit, you need to be able to prove it in some way. And that is, you need to be able to relate it to whatever the rest of the poem is trying to say. And so, or convey it in terms of it representing an idea. And if the idea it's representing is inconsistent with the other ideas, then you may want to reconsider what the metaphor is actually or generally referring to. Now, at times, this may take a bit of research, because the metaphor that that a statement's trying to make may have absolutely no relevance to any of the ideas that you can come up with, until you sort of look through the context of the period where you find that that word actually has a double meaning or is related to a piece of literature. And when you get metaphors like that, I mean, they do come up from time to time. It's really a case of that you exhaust all possibilities yourself, and then you look through in the process of researching poetry, like you should always be doing anyway. You really find and spend some time looking at what does this statement really mean? What can it refer to in the context of the poem? And that's what you're really looking at. Now, as I mentioned before, you need to link it to meaning. So it's essential in basically showing you understand how it is used. And I'm not saying that the metaphor is there for the hell of it. I'm saying that the metaphor is there because I understand that it's trying to convey this idea. And I'm proving that it's conveying this idea because this is what my argument is developing. To do this, you need to look around the poem, as I mentioned before. You need to look at it in regards to the other ideas in the poem and be able to pull all these things together. You should be having a cohesive argument, and poets very rarely stray from one idea or one theme. And so if you see something or a metaphor which doesn't fit, then you need to find some way that it would fit into the general tone of the poem, or what you believe it to be. And so you can't really discuss a metaphor like that without looking at the context of the poem in mind. Now, you need to start by finding keywords, investigate the tone of the poem, and also investigate how descriptive language is used. So in other words, look around, and basically it's the same process to what you, I guess, were taught to do when you were looking up a word that you didn't understand in your vocabulary, was to start to read around the text. And it's exactly the same process for what you're doing with a metaphor. Seeing as it's a method of language which isn't clear, then you need to start looking around the context of it, where it's situated, where it is in the poem, and start to work out, okay, well, the poem is a depressing tone, so if I see balloons as a metaphor, it's not going to be signifying something happy. And if it starts mentioning childhood, well, maybe the balloons are a symbol from someone's childhood, and that is related to a depressing idea. And so those sorts of things start to convey a bit more of a meaning, rather than balloons being a symbol of innocence, because everyone who's innocent has a balloon. And you start to fit in with the main ideas and what the poem is trying to convey. And this forms the basis of your interpretation and shows that you have attempted and proven that you can link it to meaning. And that's basically all you need to look at for metaphors, is that once you understand what you think it means, then just prove it. Easy.